Alright, what's up guys? We're back here with another movie review. We are continuing to review all of Stephen King's adapted movies, and now we are on to possibly one of my all-time favorite movies. Oh, and I say that with a passion. I know a lot of people probably, when they think of their all-time favorite movies, well, in the horror genre in general, they would probably come up with something like as mainstream as, I don't know, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, the original Scream, the original Friday the 13th, the original Thing, or The Thing, Alien. Now, this is possibly my, I'd say, top 5 favorite horror movies of all time. I fucking love this movie. Because this movie is done, it was made by John Carpenter, which also made quite a few other movies that I consider as all-time favorites as well. Like, I liked Ghost of Mars with Ice Cube. He also did Vampires. The sequel to Vampires wasn't that good, but he was also with Danny McBride on the Halloween remake. And of course he did Halloween 1 and 2, which are great slasher movies. And then of course he had, he also did The Fog, which is another classic in my opinion, The Thing. He's done a lot of really good movies in the past. Those are the only ones that I can name off the top of my head, other than Dead Alive, of course. I'm here to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum. I totally, no, wait a minute. Not Dead Alive. It was They Live. They Live. I get Dead Alive and They Live mixed up. Sorry. Dead Alive, also under the name of Brain Dead. I'd love to eventually review all John Carpenter's stuff, and I'd love to do Dead Alive someday. Dead Alive is fucking awesome. What's Dead Alive, you may ask? Well, it's a very comically, ridiculously gory zombie movie. It is batshit crazy. If you want to see a dude go through a horde of zombies with a lawnmower, that's the movie for you. But anyway, this is possibly one of my all-time favorite movies. I fucking love this movie. And the reason I like John Carpenter's directing so much is because the dude knows how to make a good soundtrack. Every one of his movies has a great soundtrack, including The Thing, Halloween, Christine. The dude's a master at making good sound effects, and John Carpenter is definitely one of those directors that I consider a master because he knows how to make a good soundtrack, make a good just sound effects in general, and also he's a master at building suspense, even if it's just small things. I fucking love John Carpenter. I mean, I can't express how much I love this movie. And you know what? The premise of a killer car is kind of ridiculous on paper, but you know what? There's some scenes in this where it is actually pretty freaky. There's some pretty freaky scenes in this movie. Like, this movie is flawless. I can't think of one bad thing that I don't like about this movie. This movie is really good. Now there may be other people that disagree with me on that, but I cannot find one thing that I do not enjoy about this movie. The sound effect is great. It's got that classic slow brewing John Carpenter score that he's always gotten. Like, see, I always compare the soundtrack from Christine to the one in The Thing because it's very similarly done. It's very slow and quiet, and it builds up over time. And it just makes it so much better. One of my favorite shots in this movie, and possibly one of my favorite shots in any movie of all time, is where the main bully of the movie is running down the road, and this fucking Christine literally... So the car is standing... So Christine is about this nerdy kid, and he gets this car, and I guess these bullies that were at his school go to where he was storing the car and they break it. I'll go into this when I'm going through the plot of the movie, but they break it, and then Christine goes after them, and she ends up ramming into this gas station, explodes on her. And one of my favorite shots of all time in any favorite movie is where the final leader bully is like running down the highway, and Christine's chasing him, but she's like on fire, and it's just like freaking. It's a creepy image, and there's no dialogue or anything in this scene. It's just a slow beat with the kid's breaths as he's trying to get away from the car, but he can't. This scene is just phenomenally done. It's suspenseful, and it's just, I can't express how good this movie is. This is one of the greatest movies ever created, in my opinion. And I will say that with a passion. This is personally, I wouldn't say it's John Carpenter's best movie. I gotta give that to The Thing. I'm sorry, I'm a big fan of The Thing. I love The fucking Thing. Yeah, fuck you too. Sorry, The Thing takes the cake for me, but this definitely almost gets it, because this movie is just as good as The Thing, and I feel like people underrate this movie too much. This movie is a goddamn masterpiece. I mean, I personally like it better than the book. I read the book. This is way better than the book and way more suspenseful than the book ever was. I can't express that shit enough. Oh my god. There is not one thing with this movie that I don't like. So, let's talk about the plot of this movie. Okay, this movie is about 2 hours long, and you know what? I wish it was longer. I wish it had a fucking sequel. I wish John Carpenter did a sequel on it like he did Halloween 2. I hope he made a sequel for it, but he never did. Which makes me sad. But, you know what? Honestly, I think a sequel for this movie would have ruined it, because the ending was so iconic for me. I mean, just that shot of when... I'll get to that later. There's a lot of iconic shots in this that I just fucking love. Just subtle shots that I just love. And most of them are when he starts getting involved with the car. But, okay. Yes. So the movie starts off, it's this kid, his name is Arnie, and he's like this nerdy kid, and it's like 1979, if I remember correctly. And his friend is like this football player. I'm going to call him the football player. And I guess he's his best friend, and he drives him around places in his Camaro. And Arnie's this nerdy kid, so he gets bullied all the time by this main bully. I can't remember his name. I'm gonna call him Sideburns guy, because he's got a serious pair. Actually, I'm gonna call him Mullet Face, because I'm referring to the bully leader as Mullet Face, and then there's 3 other no-name bullies that they only mention their names like once or twice in the movie that I can't remember. And that's not bad. Honestly, I'm just not good with remembering names. That's one of my main issues. But anyway, there's 3 no-name bullies that are just there, and then there's a mullet bully, the mullet leader, Mullet Face. Basically, the movie starts off, it's introducing us to this character, Arnie. He's this nerdy kid, and I guess he gets bullied by this gang of bullies all the time, and there's one, another iconic movie scene for me personally is where we first meet these bullies and there's that whole switchblade confrontation. Those of you who've seen that movie know what scene I'm talking about. That's just a scene that I always remember because, again, this movie is criminally underrated. I think this movie is criminally underrated because it's being overshadowed by bigger movies like Halloween 2, Halloween, The Thing, and John Carpenter's Vampires. I personally think this is criminally underrated, and I think it should be above all of those except for The Thing. I think The Thing should be number 1. This should be number 2. And then personally, for me, number 3 should be Ghost of Mars. Okay, you guys can yell at me all you want for that one, but I'm a huge fan of Ghost of Mars. I fucking love that movie. Now, I will say my runner-up for third place would have to be The Fog, so it's not totally a bad choice. Anyway. So, I think after that, the bully scene, we get this next scene where the football player kid is in the study hall with his other football player friends, and there's this new exchange student, and they're talking about how they want to bone her, which is high school talk. So football player kid goes up to hit on her and she declines him, so he goes back to his seat. This is just another small little scene to foreshadow something that is going to happen later. Foreshadow the oncoming events of the movie. So then when the football player kid is driving Arnie home to his mom and dad, they go by this back road and Arnie yells at the football player kid to stop the car because he sees something. Football player kid goes back and he sees this. Okay. Well, they go back and they see this car and it's beaten down. It's got pieces falling off of it. It's rusted. It doesn't look like it'll run. But guess what? It's Christine. So they see Christine. I'm not going to call it the car name. I'm going to call it by its actual name, Christine, because I don't want to confuse everybody of what's going on. So I'm just going to refer to the car as Christine because that's the name of the fucking car. Fight me. I'm the one doing the review, so I get to pick. So fight me on that. Christine. Anyway, Christine, he sees Christine. She's like fucking dilapidated. She's got rust all over, doors falling off, whatever. And there's this old guy that owns this like cabin and it's like beaten down. And he comes out and Arnie runs up there and the football player kid follows him and he's like, football player kid's like, you shouldn't buy this. It's a piece of shit. And Arnie's like, well, I like this piece of shit. So he asks the guy how much he wants for it, and the guy says like $350, and then he like marked it, well, $300, and then he marked it down to like $250, if I remember correctly. So Arnie pays for the car, and he drives this car, and it's got like no freaking muffler on it, so it's like spitting out smoke and stuff. Oh, I forgot to I forgot about the opening scene of this. I was going off of the there was this weird DVD copy of this that I bought without the other opening scene to this. So I want to talk about this before I go any further. The opening scene of this takes place when Christine was first built in the factory. This is another iconic. This is probably one of my all-time favorite movie openings of all time. I will say that hands down. The opening to this movie is godly, masterfully directed, in my opinion. So the beginning credits start on this back screen, and all you can hear in the background is a car engine revving up. And this goes on for like a minute or two, and it's very suspenseful. So then we get a song go on. It's Bad to the Bone. And we see this factory with this line of cars. There's a bunch of white cars, but in the middle of this mix is this red car, and it's Christine. Not supposed to be red. So this guy's looking at this red car, trying to figure out why it's red, and all these other cars are white. So he lifts up the hood and tries to look at the engine and stuff and see what's up with it, see if it's okay. I guess he's just checking on the car. I guess like an inspection or something. But then the car lid magically, fucking Christine slams her car lid down and pretty much almost chops his fingers off. And then they take that guy out of there, and the manager of the place is this black guy, and they never say his name, so I don't know. So this black guy, he's got a cigar in his mouth, and he goes to sit inside Christine. This is another iconic scene for me, because I always remembered this death. Apparently he died by carbon monoxide poisoning or something. So he set his cigarette down in the seat because there's plastic all over the seats and stuff. And he turned on the radio and he sat in there for a while. And then when they go to see what he's doing in there, his body falls out of the car and they figure out he's dead. Then the actual movie starts. Iconic. I can't express how good that opening scene is. That is how you fucking direct a movie. You want to make a car scary? You make a car. John Carpenter knows how to make a fucking car scary. I guarantee John Carpenter can make a ice cream truck scary. Oh wait, that's already been done. Sorry, Mr. Mercedes. But I bet he can make a fucking bicycle scary, or even a car tire. Oh wait, that's also a movie too. Rubber. Forgot about that. Rubber's not necessarily a scary movie though. But anyway, that scene, I just can't express how goddamn good that opening scene is. I cannot express tenfold. If you want to know how to direct a movie, watch a fucking John Carpenter movie. Just watch it. If you want to direct a good horror movie, look at John Carpenter. Because John Carpenter has multiple movies that I just love. I mean, there's a couple here and there like Vampires Los Muertos and The Ward that are just kind of okay. But then you got plenty of other movies like Halloween 2018, Halloween 2, Halloween, The Fog. The Fog remake is a piece of shit. Ghosts of Mars. And I know there's more than that, but those are the ones that I can name off the top of my head. Very, 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 very underrated movie. So now we're getting back to where Arnie is purchasing this car. So he's about to purchase this car, and also, before I continue, I was trying to think of this. Before I continue, let me just say, John Carpenter, this should tell you that John Carpenter knows what he's doing when he's directing a movie. Every year, all the way up into 1983, he directed, in my opinion, a bunch of A and A+ worthy movies. 1978 or 79, Halloween 1 came out. 1980, The Fog. 1981, he came out with Halloween 2. 1982, The Thing came out. 1983, Christine came out. If you can direct that many movies in the span of 5 years that are just perfect, you're doing something right. I mean, come on. I mean, just look at that. In the span of that much time, he made 5 masterful movies. Masterful movies. And I say that with passion. So, continuing with Christine, he buys this car and he takes it home to his parents. They don't like that, so they make him take it to the garage. And we get to meet the garage owner. And he's this douchey old man. And he says, if you can pick up and work around here, I'll let you borrow whatever you need out of the junkyard. Arnie starts fixing this car up, and eventually he gets the car fully fixed. We're about 40 minutes in now. And then we get a football game, and Arnie starts changing. He starts getting rid of his glasses, and he starts wearing like bad boy clothes. Like he's got his collar up, and he's got his hands in his pockets, and he talks like a cool guy now. No, that's literally he's basically taken on the role of a bad boy now. And you know what? Arnie's transformation, because he starts falling, see what Arnie does, he starts falling in love with this car, and the car becomes his lover. Then he gets that new student that showed up at school that his football player friend hit on. He starts dating her, and Christine doesn't like that. So Christine locks the car doors so he can't get in, and she tries to choke her inside the car. That gets stopped, thankfully, but Christine doesn't like it when anything gets between them. So he starts falling in love with this car, and this car becomes a part of him. And the car is the only thing he can think about. I mean, another iconic shot is where she's choking in the car and that the dashboard starts like lighting up. Another iconic shot. And then we get the football game where his football player friend is doing like the finals or whatever, and he gets like flipped over on his back or something, and he becomes like almost paraplegic or whatever. So he gets sent to the hospital, and he's in there for like the rest of the movie until like the last 20 minutes. But every time, if you look at every time Arnie visits him in the hospital, he visits him 2 or 3 times. I'm thinking 3. But every time he just starts getting more evil and darker and not caring about anybody else. And his visits start becoming shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. And he starts like drinking alcohol and stuff. He starts becoming this different person. He is a different person. And one of my all-time favorite shots is where he's sitting in this car and the whole background is black. And his face is lit up with this like purple luminescent light. And he's got like bags under his eyes and he's sweating and he's just looking at the camera. Creepy ass shot. I fucking love it. Those of you who've seen this movie know exactly what shot I'm talking about. It is such a cool shot. I can't express how much I like that. Just him looking at it, like sitting in the background. We haven't even got to some of my favorite parts of this movie. So then the bullies come in and they figure out where he was storing the car. Arnie was storing the car. And they come in and destroy the car. And Arnie comes back and he fixes the car up and goes after one of the no-name bullies. He's this fat kid. And, well, Christine goes after him, not Arnie. Arnie is at home. And he's doing chores for his boss now. And Christine chases after this kid in another iconic scene where the kid gets dropped off by this semi-truck driver and he's walking down the road. And he's under a bridge pass. And he hears old music, like 40s, 50s music. So he's wondering what the hell that's coming from. And he sees the car just like standing back far side of the bridge, just sitting there. And there's about another minute scene where he's just looking at this thing, trying to figure out what the fuck it is. Creepy, suspenseful moment. I can't express how good this is directed. He just starts looking at the car. And eventually the car just starts like wheeling around trying to hit him. And he goes into this like warehouse area. And eventually he gets trapped in this little alleyway that's too small for the car to get into. So another iconic shot of this movie that I just love is this fat kid backed up against the wall with a switchblade and he's saying, "You're dead." And the car starts like crushing its way inside the gap. So it's like crushing itself because Christine can heal if you don't know. And eventually it goes so far that it completely smashes them in half. Also, another one that I wanted to mention, before this happened, when Christine was all broken and stuff by the bullies destroying it, there was another thing that I just absolutely, another scene that I, probably one of my favorite things inside of a movie of all time is where Arnie stands back. Everything about this scene. So Arnie comes back and he's talking to Christine and she's all destroyed. So then he starts seeing that the door fixed itself. Like, Christine's starting to fix herself. She's got, like, fixing abilities. So Arnie stands back and says one of my all-time favorite movie quotes. All-time favorite. He says, let's see. I want to get this right. He says, "Okay, show me." And then we get another scene where the car just starts repairing itself. And they don't take the camera away. They actually show the car repairing itself. It's such a cool scene. Okay, show. I fucking love that scene, dude. Oh my God. I can't express it. I just can't express. Okay, show me. Fuck, I love this movie. I fucking love. Oh, I'm nerding out. I'm nerding out. Oh, the nostalgia is pouring out my veins. Oh my God, I fucking want to watch this 100 times. And I will. I just can't express how much I love that. I fucking love it. I love it. Okay, show me. So then next day after this kid gets killed, Christine is back magically in the shop unscathed because she repaired herself. And Arnie gets leaves school early to go to work and work for the douchey old man at the junkyard. But then he gets stopped by this detective. And this detective is asking questions because apparently there was some paint from Christine still at the crime scene. Of course, Christine repaired all this paint damage, but he's still wondering why there's paint flakes everywhere or whatever, because apparently the kid was like cut in half. And we get a detective in the mix, so now he's trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. So then that night, we get yet another scene that's just fucking iconic. I love this. One of the most suspenseful horror movie scenes of all time. This rivals some of the greatest. Honestly, I'd put this movie above like another one of my favorite movies is Shawshank Redemption. Personally, for me, I'm a big horror fan, so I'd put this above Shawshank Redemption or Green Mile. Maybe that's just me. But if I had to pick an all-time number one above them all favorite movie, I'd have to either pick Inglourious Bastards or Tropic Thunder with Ben Stiller. Or I'd also go with Django Unchained. I am a big fan of lots of gore. Fucking love it. I want to see body parts fly. But you know what? Body parts flying doesn't make a good movie unless you're Rambo. Then I'm okay with it. Anyway, okay. I'd also like to review Rainbow Last Blood and Last Blood and First Blood. All of them. All of the Rambos. Because honestly, going off topic a little bit here. A lot of people didn't like it, but I personally really enjoyed Rambo Last Blood. I mean, I don't really understand why people didn't like it. I mean, Rambo's an old guy now, so it makes sense that he'd probably have a family or something. And they made a pretty ballsy choice when they killed off his daughter, so it's like, I mean, his sort of daughter. And I thought it made some ballsy choices. And you know what? I'm completely okay with it because the last 30 minutes of the movie was just dudes getting their head blown off. Exactly what I fucking want to see in a Rambo movie. I want to see dudes' heads getting blown the fuck to pieces. Not with just a shotgun. I want to see people dead in multiple different ways. And that's what Rambo Last Blood gave me in the last 30 minutes. I saw dudes getting blown to pieces with magnesium shotgun shells. I saw dudes with buzzsaw blades getting in their face. I saw crossbow kills. I saw assault rifle kills. I saw a double barrel shotgun blow someone's head off. I saw a pole go through a dude's head. I saw knife tosses. I saw crossbow kills. I saw C4 blow dudes up. And I even saw people drenched in gasoline while being shot with magnesium shells. Not to mention, I saw Rambo fucking rip a dude's collarbone out in this movie. Why didn't people fucking like that movie? I honestly don't know. I can't wait to review it. Dude, he doesn't even give a shit about the last villain. He just takes his Bowie knife and freaking carves his heart out. It's brutal. Why didn't people like Last Blood? I thought Last Blood was not one of the best Rambo movies, but a damn good Rambo sequel. Just like the one before it. The one before it was brutal too, with fucking machetes taking dudes' heads clean off. That one scene where those dudes are on the ridge and he just takes that minigun and starts like blowing through them. And then fucking dudes' heads just flying everywhere. God damn. Anyway. Christine. The main... Okay, now I want to talk about another iconic scene from this movie that I just love. So then we get the main bully, and he's in the car with this other bully that's got like this afro type hair. He looks like Disco Stew. Disco Stew, back on attack. Disco Stew. For those of you who do not know who Disco Stew is, he is a Simpsons character. Disco Stew. But anyway, so they're, I guess the bully and them are coming from this gas station or whatever, and they're going to meet their buddy at this like auto parts shop where he works. And they go over there and they're being chased by this car, and they don't see it because the headlights are too bright. Suspenseful scene. They can't see the car, but we can, and it's Christine. But the windows on it are so blackened out that you can't tell if anybody's driving it, which they aren't. That's the best part about this movie. The windows are always black. You don't know. But, so the bully and his friend drive off with this, they start playing chicken with Christine, and eventually they get to the auto parts shop and drive into the parking lot, and they get out of the car and they get like bats and stuff, and they start like threatening the car, but then Christine because Arnie isn't driving the car. It's Christine doing it. So she rams into the bully's Mustang and shoves it into the auto parts shop with gasoline spilling everywhere. And eventually it catches fire, and the two other no-name bullies were in the auto parts shop when this happened. So the auto parts shop explodes, and that leaves the last leader bully. So he starts backing up when he sees Christine driving out of the flames. This is a scary fucking shot. So the car like drives out of the screen. Out of the fucking flames. And then it just starts going after the bully. And all you can hear in this scene is a slow beat tied in with the bully's breaths. Nothing else. No dialogue, no car engine, just nothing else. And there's another scene where it's just going down the road. It's like do 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 do. It's awesome scene. And then eventually it just ends with a thump thump, and then you see a burning body on the ground, and it just leaves it there. Intense as hell, and not to mention the road is like black. All you can see is the car and the bully running from the car. Everything is black. Oh, gives me goosebumps every time. Ugh. But so next part was next part was next part. That was what the hell? I'm trying to think the exact scene. I think it's another scene where Arnie's visiting his football player friend. And eventually, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. Eventually, his friend gets out of the hospital. And I'm going back a little bit here. Earlier in the movie, his mom was trying to figure out why Arnie's acting so weird. And this was before he was in the hospital. So his football player friend goes down to the guy who sold Arnie the car. And he basically tells him this backstory that Arnie had the same look in his eyes that his brother did. And the old man goes on to explain that his brother committed suicide in the car by carbon monoxide poisoning because he tied the hose in the back of the car and put it in through the window and fucking killed himself that way. Which is a way to commit suicide. It's one of the more common ways to commit suicide. Believe it or not. Along with hanging, wrist slit, and pill. Why am I going on about this? I'm going to get off that subject. Sorry, I tend to go off. Anyway, then he goes on to explain that apparently his wife and his 5-year-old kid died in the car too, but he didn't care. All he wanted was Christine. Crazy, crazy fucking story. But anyway, Arnie eventually gets in a fight with his football player friend and eventually with his girlfriend. And so both the girlfriend and the football player kid are now out of his life, and he just has Christine. His parents are gone too. So then when Christine comes back from her murder spree, she's all burnt up and she hasn't healed yet. So the old guy, Arnie's boss, notices the car come in and then it parks. So he goes over there with a shotgun thinking someone's in there. He yells for someone to come out, but then when no one comes out, he gets a towel and opens up the door to find that there's no one in there. So he gets inside the car and sets the shotgun on the seat. And he starts messing around with the car to figure out what the fuck is going on. And the car door locks and the seat pushes him up against the steering wheel with another iconic kill of the movie, where it crushes him against the steering wheel. And then when the detectives find him the next morning, he's completely dead and the car is repaired. So Arnie comes to the shop in the morning and the detective's there and he's all pissed off at him. Arnie's got an alibi though. So what happens is later that night, the football player kid and Arnie's old girlfriend decide to team up and stop Arnie and stop Christine and kill Christine. So they're going to take control of the bulldozer inside of the now shut down junkyard. And so basically what happens is the football hurricane gets a screwdriver and carves the name of the place into the car hood. And we get another very suspenseful scene where they're looking for the car. They're looking for Christine to arrive. Nothing happens though. So when they're waiting there for a while, they're sitting inside the bulldozer. They see this light come in, and it turns out just to be another car. So then they brush it off, and then the football player kid says to Arnie's old girlfriend that she should probably get over by the gate controls so when the car comes in, she can trap it in there. So she makes her way over there, and just before she gets there, crazy ass scene. there's like no music or anything, and it's just her footsteps, and she starts walking over there, and then we hear this like squeal, and then the Christine's car lights turns on in the back of the garage, and apparently she was there the whole time that they were there. So then we get a big battle with the bulldozer. Christine tries to run over Arnie's old girlfriend and stop the bulldozer, but nothing works. So what happens is Christine eventually rams into the office inside of the garage, and which leaves one wall of the office standing, and it's got like glass panes on it. So what happens is Arnie's old girlfriend stands in front of it to get inside, but it's too late, so she jumps out of the way, and the car accidentally crashes into this glass pane, and we get another one of my favorite all-time scenes. So Arnie crashes out the front window, and he's got a big shard of glass in his stomach, and he does die here, but what happens is he basically touches the symbol on top of the car and then gets blood all over it, and then his hand slowly slides down and he dies. Crazy ass scene. Oh my god. So then the movie ends with a close-up, because apparently they cubed the car and shoved it into a cube and demolitioned it. But the movie ends with the detective, the girlfriend character, and the football player boy walking away from the destroyed car. I mean, the cube. And the movie ends with a close-up shot of the cube, and a piece of the metal starts moving by itself. And then we get the credits. The credits start to roll with Bad to the Bone playing again. Holy shit, this movie is godly. I think it's not going to be any surprise what I'm about to give this movie. I give it an A+ motherfucking plus. This movie deserves an A+ like no other. And I say that with passion. So, remember to leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and I will be back here with more.